me, it's the little things, like these new windshield wipers from eBay I installed.
From small fixes to big upgrades, eBay has all the parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Ever wonder why Big Wireless wants you on an unlimited plan? They probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data every month. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by Big Wireless. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Our plans start at just $20, and we use the same towers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
This is Richard Parton, and I'd like to tell you about Adam's Place. We have been here 8 months, and at this point we have not even turned our stove on. No need. They come in every week, change your linen, and clean your house, and it's just like a dream, like being on a cruise every day.
This is Terry Deal. Come tour Adam's Place and discover living a dream in your senior years.
Join me, Speedy, Adler, and Greg for the Rick Burgess Show on WGNS.
The Rick Burgess Show, weekdays 11 to 2 on News Radio WGNS.
From the big news of the day to stories from everyday life, it's the Rick Burgess Show.
Hey, did you see that crowd last week?
Well, it's the 50th season. What'd you expect? Fireworks?
Nah, just sweet corn and smiles.
This year marks 50 fresh, flavorful seasons at the Rutherford County Farmers Market at Lane Agro Park in Murfreesboro.
Join me, Speedy, Adler, and Greg for the Rick Burgess Show on WGNS.
The Rick Burgess Show, weekdays 11 to 2 on News Radio WGNS.
Life's too short to stress about insurance. That's why Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance is here to make sure you have the right coverage without all the hassle. He'll work hard to provide you with personalized service and finding the best solutions for you and your family. Whether you're looking for auto, home, or business insurance, Rick Hall's got you covered. Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance Agency. Let him handle the details so you can focus on what really matters.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. More people depend on WGNS for local news that matters. We're your local news leader. News Radio WGNS. Video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
And good morning to you. Welcome to the Roundtable on WGNS. I am your host, Curt Harding. A quick intro of who I am, because a lot of people are like, who is Curt Harding? Well, my family and I moved to Murfreesboro almost 20 years ago. I was born and raised in Michigan, where I did radio news for many years. And we moved to Middle Tennessee back in 2005 so that I could pursue a whole different career, and that would be in publishing, writing books, and doing publicity work for authors. Up until recently, I was doing publicity for Dave Ramsey. So I've been involved in that area of publishing for a long time, which brings me to our guest this hour, Jason Koger. I know you're going to find his story absolutely incredible. His journey is of perseverance and faith. Jason is the first bilateral upper arm amputee in the world to be fitted with something called 2 multi-articulating bionic hands, which sounds amazing. Not sure what it is, but Jason will fill us in, and we'll talk exactly about what all that is. Jason was involved in a bizarre accident on his property back in 2008. He lives in Owensboro, Kentucky. But today he can do pretty much anything you and I can do and more. And he is now an author, a speaker. He even dipped his feet into Hollywood a little bit. We'll get into that as well. And he definitely outkicked his coverage with his wife, Jenny. And he has 3 amazing kids as well. So, Jason, I want to welcome you to the Roundtable. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Can you see me?
I can see you. Check you out.
All right, I'm gonna give you the bionic piece roundabout.
Yes. The 360 for the radio listeners. His hand is actually going around in a 360, which you cannot do. So do not call him disabled, right? Jason, before we get, I guess the best place to get started is just tell me about growing up in Kentucky and tell me about Owensboro.
Yeah, so I was born and raised just right outside of Owensboro. It's a little community called Utica. I was raised up on a farm. My grandparents owned 2,300 acres of corn and soybeans. So where I was raised up, and I'm literally only like 7 miles from town, but it was my mom and dad's house, and then next door was my uncle, and I had a cousin that was my age that lived there, and then next door to him was my grandfather's house, and then next door to my grandfather was my other uncle with a cousin that was a year older than us. But growing up, in the community that we're in and, on the farm, I always wanted to raise my kids the same way, so you could have ride four-wheelers, just do whatever. And ever since I was a little boy, me and my cousins always tried to tell each other, it's like, hey, one day we are going to live out here in the country together and raise our kids the same way. And so anyway, it's been everybody in this neighborhood has been here my whole life. Like, I know everybody in this neighborhood. You can let kids run and not worry about anything, really.
Yeah. And this will become important later on, but I know that faith has always been part of your life and your family's life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom and dad raised us up in church. It was always just something we did. Even further than that, just right behind my house, probably a mile behind my house where we went to church growing up. And my great-grandfather, they went there. My grandparents got married there. My mom was baptized there. My mom and dad got married there. I was baptized there. Like, it's just, you just don't hear that very often anymore. It seems like nowadays, a lot of people, they, get a job and they move off, and there's not that history. And I don't know. I'm a history guy. I love just being able to know where my family's from.
Yeah, like it would be a foreign concept to you to like move away somewhere, like go to California and live on the beach or something.
It would. It'd be really hard.
That's just not part of your DNA, right?
No.
Wow.
No, but most people look at me like I'm this old country boy, and I'm not either. I mean, I travel a lot now.
Fire-breathing giants. This
my
is
story
wild.
has allowed me
What's
to
your game plan for
to
tackling
see a lot of stuff. I mean, like you said already, I got hurt March 1st of 2008, and it's pretty funny. I was 29 years old, and I'd never seen a taxi before.
Oh, wow.
29 years.
Yeah, yeah. So would you call yourself, I mean, what did you do in Owensboro? Would you call yourself a farmer?
So my mom's parents are the one that had the farms. My dad, he was raised up pretty poor, actually. He had a big family, and when my dad, he went into construction company whenever I was born, and in 1984 he started his own company with $1,500 to his name's all he had. And my dad was a drill sergeant in the Army, so growing up there was never we couldn't do something. We always had to make a go and go for it. And even through the good times and bad times, you relied on faith, and you got it done. You figured it out.
Yeah.
And, obviously here in a little bit, we'll get into that, but that definitely helped me a bunch from my accident. But, I watched my dad do that. He started his company, and ever since I was, 4 or 5 years old, I always worked for my dad. And, I was sweeping the floors, and then I moved on up, and until the day of my accident, I was still working for him. So I was more in the construction than I was in the farming.
Right. Well, let's back up a little bit. How you and I met was interesting. So a mutual friend of ours, Alice Sullivan, she's a ghostwriter in town. She got a hold of me one day and said, hey, I met this guy who wants to write a book. He lost both of his arms below the elbow. And she gave me a little bit of detail on it. And this is the book. It's Handed a Greater Purpose. But at the time, you had no idea what you were doing on writing a book. You just knew you wanted one. And Alice was talking you through that, and she thought that it would be great if you and I met. So whenever that was, I want to say maybe 2011 or something. I don't even know.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
we met at a little outdoor cafe in Nashville, and I have to admit that I was really nervous to meet you. I didn't know necessarily how to act. I'm like, do I shake his hook? Do I give him a side hug? What do I do? Because I'm not used to being around someone who's had something happen to them like that. And also, I had sort of a interesting little personal thing going on where I almost lost my left arm in an accident when I was 12. And so I've always been really, really sensitive about losing a limb and the pain that came from breaking my arm so badly that they almost had to remove it. So I was super nervous. I just could not. I had so many butterflies in my stomach to meet you. And then you walked up in this outdoor cafe and you had a T-shirt on that said, "Look, Mom, no hands." And right away,
and we've been friends ever since.
I said, I think I'm going to love this guy. I'm not just going to like him. I am going to love him. Oh boy. So
I got another shirt that says, "Don't shoot, I'm unarmed," too.
Yes, that is perfect. Absolutely perfect. So take us back to the day. Take us back to 2008 and tell us exactly what was going on, how the day started, and what happened.
Yeah. Well, a little bit before that, I went to college. I went to Murray State University. When I graduated, I came home and went to work for my dad again. I'd always known for 29 years that that's probably what I'm going to do. One day I'll take over the business. And, I think we all, when we're little, we come up with a plan of what we want. And if you don't get what you want, you're not successful. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's all our mentalities of what am I going to do when I grow up? And so I had my game plan. I'm going to run my dad's business. I'm going to come home. I met a girl named Jenny. I knew I wanted to marry Jenny. And so whenever I came home, and like I said a minute ago, I wanted to live in this neighborhood around the farm, just with my cousins and raise our kids the same way. I mean, that was all my goals. And so whenever I moved back to Owensboro from college, I bought a house in town, a little 800 square foot home. I wanted something right off the bat. I asked Jenny to marry me, so that's where we moved to. It was this little house, and her and I talked about kids, how many she wanted, and I didn't care. I love kids, so she wanted 4 kids is what she wanted, but she told me, she was like, "Jason, we cannot live in this 800 square foot home with more than 1 kid, because it was only a 3-bedroom. It was our bedroom. One of the bedrooms was our closet, pretty much, because the rooms were so super small, and then 1 room for a baby." And I said, "That's fine. We'll start out with 1, and then we'll do something different." And she knew my goal was to move out here too, and so for about 2 years, we were starting to get really busy at work. And anyway, Jenny and I, we were talking about when we want to have kids, and eventually we decided, hey, it's time. So we got pregnant, and we had Billy Grace, which is my oldest. So we were still in Owensboro, living in that little house. And I told Jenny, I said, I want to wait, at least a year or so before we try again. And she was like, yeah, because when we try again, we got to move. It wasn't long later, Jenny called me, and I was at work. She was like, hey, we need to talk. I said, all right, what? So she said, can you come home? So I went home, and she said, we need to move. I said, well, that's random. Like, what? Like, you called me to come home and said, we just got to move. And I was like, what's this about?
You're like, today?
Yeah, like, what are you doing? And I said, is everything all right? She was like, well, we're pregnant again. And it happened a lot faster than I'd expected. So that weekend, I came out to my mom and dad's house, and I did not give them an option. I told them they had to leave. So I kicked them out of their house, and I bought my mom and dad's house. So I'm raising my kids in the house that I was raised in, and back out here on the farm. And so at the time, we had Billy Grace was 21 months old. My second daughter was born, Campbell. Campbell was 3 months old. About 2 years. Those 2 years, I was working about 7/12s, so I was gone a lot. I was putting extra money on my house payments. I didn't have time to spend money, so that's kind of what I wanted to do. And all this was like a godsend too, that I was putting extra money on my house payments and trying to pay it off early, and all that stuff. And
yeah.
So March 1st, 2008 was on a Saturday. It was one of the first weekends that I was kind of off. And that night, on Friday night, I told my wife, I said, hey, in Owensboro at the mall, they got this little train ride. And I said, I want to take the girls on this little train ride. And she was like, all right. So the next morning I woke up, kids got up. I went to Owensboro. I met my sister, my niece, Jenny, and I, and the girls went. We went on this little train ride in the mall, just, no big deal. And we got that done and came home, and Jenny said she had a whole list of honeydew projects for me to do at the house because I hadn't been home in a long time. And so I remember telling Jenny, I was like, I want to put the girls down for a nap. I haven't done that in a while, so I want to make sure I get to do that today. And so it was around nap time, and I went down and laid the girls down for a nap. And then I was working on a few things, and I told Jenny, I was like, man, it's a nice day outside. I'm going to go on a quick four-wheeler ride around my grandfather's farm. And I told you basically how the houses line up. So behind my house is nothing but cornfields, but there's a little gravel road that is owned by the family, and it's beside my house, and it's a U-shape. So it basically leaves the back side of my house, and it U-shapes to my grandfather's house to where the grain bins are.
Okay.
And I said, so I'm just going to go around the farm real quick, and it's literally, I'd be gone 10 minutes, and been around this farm 29 years. Millions of times, and I tell people, it's like, I know this farm well enough. It's like when you get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, you don't have to turn lights on. You can make it to the bathroom, you can use the bathroom, you can go back to bed, not trip over anything. And that's how I felt around this farm. So I took off, went straight behind my house, turned the first left, went down that way. I was going pretty slow. I was just looking across the field, just taking a nice, cool ride, right? I wasn't in a big hurry. And so the second corner to the left, there's a culvert, and it's the only place you can cross. And when I got to that spot, there's a hill right behind it, and the sun was coming from that side. And by the time I got to it, I noticed that there was this line. I didn't know what it was at the time. It hit the front rack of my four-wheeler. It bounced, and whenever it came back, it bounced over my handlebars, and it hit me in the chest and landed on top of my gas tank between my body and the handlebars. And when I looked down, I noticed that it was a down power line.
Yeah.
I had no clue what to do, but everybody tells me, and when I say construction, I was not an electrician. I cannot stand electricity, especially now. But
yeah, especially now.
So, I've always been told if you're on rubber tires, you have nothing to worry about.
Right.
So I'm sitting here thinking, like, what do I do? And then, kind of going back a little bit, my mentality, I always think of others. I told you my dad started with $1,500 to his name. When he started his company and he started making money, I watched him give to so many people. He always cared about people. It made his heart so full when he thought of others. I'm the exact same way. So the first thing I think about is there's other kids in this neighborhood. What if somebody's riding a four-wheeler or dirt bike and they're running, wide open, and they don't see this line? I was worried that they were going to get decapitated. I really wasn't worried about electricity anymore, because when I looked to my left, I saw that the telephone pole was leaning towards me. I looked over to my right, and those lines went to a field pump, which pumps water out of the field when it's planted. Well, nothing's planted in March. So I'm like, maybe it's off,
Yeah.
This stuff.
You had no idea at this point that was a live wire.
Had no clue.
Okay.
Had no clue.
All right. I'm going to stop you there for a second. We're going to take a break.
Yep. Okay.
And people are going to be amazed by what happens next. You're listening to the Roundtable on WGNS Radio. Jason Koger, the Bionic Man, and the book, Handed a Greater Purpose. We'll be right back.
For 75 years, Murfreesboro Medical Clinic has been a cornerstone of health and compassion in our community. From our humble beginnings to the advanced, comprehensive care we offer today, our commitment to you has never wavered. With 8 locations across Murfreesboro and Middle Tennessee and over 100 physicians, we continue to provide the highest standard of care. Then, now, and always, your health is our mission.
Sign-ups are going on right now for First Shot's Winter Basketball League in Rutherford County. Coach Andy Herzer guides kids to sharpen basketball skills and build teamwork through exciting clinics and games. Since 2003, First Shot has empowered youth to grow in mind, spirit, and body. Don't miss out. Join the fun and develop lifelong skills. Visit firstshottn.org today and register for the Winter Basketball League. That's firstshottn.org.
And I know we are getting older and things do happen, and you need to make these choices and come before an emergency occurs, and then come and have the good life when you get here.
This is Terry Deal. Come tour Adams Place and discover living a dream in your senior years on Memorial across from Walmart. Call us at 615-904-9111.
Rutherford weather.
We'll see sunny skies here for this afternoon, high in the low 70s. Tonight, mostly clear and a low near 52. Tuesday, sunny, high of 73. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki from the WGNS Rutherford Weather Center. Currently, it's 45.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. Are you ready to take control of your energy usage and save money? Download the MyMTE app to track your energy consumption, pay your bill, and even report outages right from your phone. It's free and available now in iOS and Android.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
And welcome back to the Roundtable here on WGNS. We are talking with Jason Koger, who I like to call the Bionic Man. He's the author of Handed a Greater Purpose, and he was just getting into what happened to him on the property in Owensboro, Kentucky in 2008. Jason was about to get hurt more than he could ever imagine. His life was about to change for the rest of his life. Jason, continue.
All right. So I guess I stopped whenever the line hit my hit my four-wheeler.
Yep.
On my chest, in between my handlebars and my chest on my gas tank. And I just remember looking over to the left and seeing the pole leaning towards me, and over to my right, the lines went to a field pump. So the first thing I thought is maybe it's off. Maybe that's a possibility. But I'm also on rubber tires, so I know better to get off the rubber tires, get off the four-wheeler. So, two things that I thought of. And then I called my cousin, and I asked him to come back there. I told him there was a down line, that I was against it. So he got down there, and I had made the decision to pick it up just high enough to back off of it and get over my handlebars and let go of it. Mm-hmm. So he was behind me, and that's exactly what I did. I picked it up, and I backed off, and then I let go of the line, and it was in front of my front of my four-wheeler at that time. I don't know how far, not very far, but I just let go of it. And I turned around and I looked at my cousin, and these lines were about 30 inches off the ground. And I told him, I said, man, if those lines were just this high, and I threw my arm out just showing him like a height, I said maybe a kid wouldn't, get decapitated. I was worried about that. Mm-hmm. And whenever I threw my arm out like that and I was talking about it, I was turning around looking at him. Next thing I remember is, electricity going through my body. It was just like a vibration. Everything went dark. I just remember that every single bone, every piece of my body was vibrating. Mm. And when you think of electricity, you know that buzzing sound, mm-hmm. like that's the vibration, the buzz in all of your body, and then it lasted for 30 seconds. When you get electrocuted, you take electricity for 30 seconds, and then the power will shut off. So I took 7,200 volts of electricity for 30 seconds, which some people don't know what that is. That's actually more than the electric chair. It was enough electricity that it shut my entire neighborhood down. So I took the main voltage in my neighborhood. And 30 seconds after it went off, and like I said, everything was dark because it was almost like my eyes were closed. I found out later on that it actually stopped my heart. So my heart had been stopped for 30 seconds. And then whenever the power went out, it was either enough electricity that it jolted my heart back to start, or it threw me off the back of the four-wheeler. I hit the ground hard enough that it started my heart back up. And when my heart started, I woke up, and then I felt like my body was on fire. I think a lot of people think when you get electrocuted, electricity does leave your body, right? It does leave holes or opening areas or whatever, but it did not blow my hands off. That's what most people think. Yes. They assume that it just blew them off.
Yes.
It didn't happen.
Yeah. It did blow off a shoe, though, didn't it? Or a hole in a shoe or something?
Yep.
Yeah.
It blew my right tennis shoe. They found my shoe 30 feet from where I was.
Wow.
And it also exited out of my left thumb. So it basically blew my thumb almost off. It was hanging on just by a little bit of skin. And then electricity came out between my middle finger and my ring finger on my right hand as well.
Now, at this point, are you aware of what has happened to you? Do you know that I just got massively electrocuted, or is your brain...
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, you did know exactly what was happening. Okay.
Yes. Yep. And I felt like I was on fire.
Yeah.
Like, you feel like your body is literally burning on the inside. So the first thing I'm trying to do is climb down in the ditch to cool off. My cousin's pulling me out of the ditch. He's already called 911. He called my uncle that lives in the neighborhood, so my uncle comes back real quick. My other cousin seen my uncle come back there real quick and knew something was wrong. He came back and immediately left and went to the road to find the ambulance to show him where I was, because I was off, you couldn't see where I was. Mm-hmm. And so that cousin that was on the road, he called my mom and dad that lived in town, and he just told my mom answered, and he said, Jason's been in an accident. And my mom was like, how bad, what happened? And he said, I don't know. And she said, where's Jenny at? And Charlie said, Jenny is at home, which was right next door to where it was, right? And she said, did you tell Jenny? And he said, no. And then the first thing my mom could tell in his voice that it was, pretty bad. Mm. And my mom said, is he still alive? And Charlie's answer, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it was, and I think that's when it hit my mom, was like, this is bad. It's not just a broken bone or, this is bad. So my mom called my wife. Jenny had been working on a project on her computer. And I tell people, she had probably been working on this thing for 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe a few days, I don't know. And right in the middle of her not hitting save, electricity went out, so she probably lost all the work she'd been working on. Mm. And how many of us, when that happens, it's the worst thing that's ever happened. It's like, I just lost the last 2 hours or last 30 minutes of work. And she had no idea that it was her husband dying, a few hundred yards away. You know what I mean? And it just hits perspective that when things like that happen, it really ain't that big of a deal. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So she comes back to where I am. Ambulance is already there. They load me up. I'm heading to Owensboro Hospital. And the first thing that I think of is my grandfather, because my grandfather passed away 3 months before I was injured. And my grandfather was a single arm amputee. I mean, he was the only arm amputee that I'd ever met in my life. Mm. And I remember telling my wife, Papa still farmed. He still drove tractors. He cut hay. He, tobacco. He did everything with one hand missing. I'm going to be all right. I'm just going to lose my thumb. Like, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, like you were sure that thumb was going to be gone.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was just about off anyway. Yeah. And so we get to Owensboro Hospital. Jenny still didn't know I'm electrocuted. She has no idea what happened. We get to Owensboro, and immediately doctors run in and out. Doctor comes up, says, we got to get this kid out of here now, and we got a helicopter coming. So Vanderbilt burn unit accepted me, and a helicopter came, picked me up at the hospital in Owensboro, and I went to Vanderbilt Hospital. But in the air, still had no clue what had happened, or the extent of my injuries. Mm-hmm. I get in the air, and the nurses on the helicopter said, we need to go on and prep you and get you ready for surgery. So they stuck a needle on the side of my jugular vein, and they cathed me immediately. But I remember my left shoulder looking out the window of the helicopter. I remember talking to the nurses and asking, why are we going to Vanderbilt? I don't understand. And the only response I could get was, everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. Mm. They would not give me any kind of medication. But when they cathed me, I remember looking down and seeing my urine bag look like Dr. Pepper. And at the time, I had no clue what that was. Get to Vanderbilt. get off the helicopter, I remember going down an elevator. I remember going down a hallway, and I remember going into a room that looked like a morgue. The bed was stainless steel. Everything in there was stainless. And I really, to be honest with you, at that moment, it's like, is this what you see when you die? Like, I don't know where I'm at. You know, I had no clue. And that room was called hydro. And hydro is where they take a pressure washer and they wash your dead skin off of you. So my entire right arm was 3rd-degree burns, and they had to wash all that flesh off. They were basically prepping me, getting me ready for surgery, but they had to wait for my wife to get from Owensboro to Nashville in a vehicle to sign release forms, to amputate, whatever they had to amputate, blood transfusions, just whatever they had to do to save my life. So you think of a wife that's 28 years old, 2 little girls, 21-month-old, 3-month-old. Jenny's heading to Nashville just thinking, like, I don't even know why he's going there. I don't understand. It's just a thumb. To pulling into Vanderbilt and going into the waiting room, and Dr. Jeffrey Guy was my doctor. Him coming down to the waiting room and telling my wife, I need you to sign release forms to amputate whatever I have to amputate, do a blood transfusion, and if you don't do this, your husband's going to die. Because when you get electrocuted, it burns you from the inside out, and it causes poisonous toxins inside your body, which has to go through your kidneys.
Right. Going back to that urine looking like Dr. Pepper, you were literally cooked.
Yes. Yeah. My kidneys were shutting down, and they were going fast. I immediately went into surgery. She signed release forms. Went into surgery, and they amputated my right arm right off the bat. They just didn't even really open it up. They just cut it off. And then on my left, they opened me up from my elbow down to the end of my hand. And he said when they opened my skin up where they could see the muscle, they said that all 10 tendons on my fingertips were wrapped around my wrist. They popped like rubber bands. And they said that it looked like a shotgun had went off on the inside of my hand. They immediately amputated it. And then they put me in an induced coma. I was in an induced coma for 3 days, and every day I went through amputations, just a little bit more until they could get the infections out. There was a lot of, now that I know, there was a lot of people praying for me. A lot of people, man, there was 50 people at the hospital 2 hours away. Me and Dr. Guy became really, really close, but I woke up 3 days later. It actually had a small fracture in my back and my neck as well from the electricity. And they did skin graft. They took skin from my knee to my hip on both legs just to cover my right arm. Woke up, strapped down to a bed. Still had no clue that they amputated anything. Couldn't see anything. There was a nurse beside me, and I remember asking for my mom and my dad, and they both came in the room. And my dad, and again, it goes back to that drill sergeant mentality. My dad come over to me, and I just looked up at him and like, how bad is it? And my dad said, I don't know how we're going to get through this, but he said they had to amputate both of your arms to save your life. But we've always had faith, and we will get through it one way or another. We don't know how. We don't know what your life's going to look like, but we will get through it. And I think at that moment, it was just like, you know what? We got to get through it. Like, I got a wife and 2 little girls at home. Like, I have no choice, so we're going to do this one way or another.
What was your very first thought when you were imagining yourself without hands?
There was a lot of things going through my mind. Like, you think of all the stuff, how are you going to feed yourself or dress yourself? Or, is Jenny going to stay with me at 28 years old? Man, she can roll out and find somebody else and not live a life like this. Like, what is prosthetics? I don't know. Papa had one, but I don't even know where he got it at. You know what I mean? Like, Papa, in my mind, Papa was the only upper limb amputee in the world, and now I'm the second. Like, who do you talk to? And, doctors are coming in and out and telling me what I'm going to experience, but you're talking to somebody that's got both their arms too, and it's just like, you may know by a textbook, but you really don't know, and
what struck me in meeting you, and of course reading the book Handed to Greater Purpose, I think what struck me the most is how quickly you went from grief to determination. And I say quickly because I wasn't there and I don't know. I'm sure there were dark days. But your spirit, the way you were born and raised and who you are, really made you go from grief to determination pretty quickly.
Oh, absolutely. I would say within the fourth day, like literally, and 3 of those were in a coma.
Yeah.
Dr. Guy came in my room and I met him for the first time. I didn't meet him before my surgery. He came in my room whenever I woke up and I was kind of stable or whatever. And he talked to me for a long time and just about life, about what happened, why they had to amputate, all the stuff. And he told me, he said, Jason, you're going to be in this hospital for a very long time, months. And I said, no, I'm not. He said, yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
And nope. I said, you got to tell me what I got to do. I got to get out of here. And I told him, I said, I'm 2 hours from home right now. And again, I got a wife and 2 little girls at home. I cannot be here that long. I can't. And I remember him just, we're going to get through it. We're going to be here for a while. I want you to think of some goals that you want to reach, and I want to help you reach these goals. And he said, that's just where we're going to start. And I remember him get up, and he was walking out of the room, and it was just he and I. And I said, hey, Dr. Guy, I know my first goal. I know what I need to do. And he's like, okay, like how does a 29-year-old man that I just asked this question, how does he know what he wants that quick? And he comes in there, he sits down, he's like, I hope it's realistic. I hope you can think of something. I don't know what kind of answers people give. I don't know if they're like, well, I want to drive a truck or I want to do this right off the bat. I don't know what they, other people say. And I told him, I said, I got 2 little girls at home, 21-month-old, 3-month-old. And I said, all I care about is holding them again. If I do that, I'm good.
Yeah.
And, I think that day, like telling him that, man, there was a lot of tears,
Yeah.
And because I think there was that, can I do it? Or, is this not even a possibility?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm going to give the faith.
And going back to your faith at this point, are you leaning heavily on that? Are you angry with God? Are you, where were you at in that aspect?
So I've never been angry because I've always been told, and I've always kind of known that no matter what happens, there's a reason, right? There's ups and downs in everybody's life. It's not just mine. And there is a reason, and you kind of got to figure out what that reason is. And maybe you don't understand. I mean, I ain't gonna say I understood because I didn't, but I knew there was a reason. And the next day, Dr. Guy walks in my room and he says, hey, your kids are here to see you. And I said, all right. And I said, and my kids had been there for the 3 or 4 days. That's another amazing story. Wyndham, right next to Opryland Hotel. My mom and dad's Wyndham owners, right? They were full or had reservations or whatever it was and couldn't get them in because it was such a quick notice. My mom told them what happened, and I was in the hospital for 12 days, and Wyndham gave us 12 days for my family and never took a point, a price, nothing.
Wow.
Like, it's just people came out of the woodwork that you don't even know. So going back, the next day, Dr. Guy walks in, my kids are here. He said, I'm going to bring them in your room. And I said, no, you're not. I said, man, I got heart monitors. I got hoses hanging out of my arms. I don't have hands. Like, it's scary in here. You know what I mean? I don't want this.
Yeah.
I said, I want to go to the waiting room. And he said, man, I can't get you to the waiting room unless I take stuff out, feeding tubes. I had it all. And I said, pull it out. And I talked him into unhooking me off of everything that he could unhook me off of. And I went to the waiting room. And that was that might have been the 5th or 6th day of losing my arms. And I held my kids for the first time. And that truly gave me that peace of, I still don't know how, but everything's going to be all right. Yeah. It's going to work.
And
it's going to work.
And there's that determination we were talking about as well. All right, we're going to take another break. You're listening to the Roundtable on WGNS. Our guest is Jason Koger, the Bionic Man, with an unbelievable story. And we're going to wrap that up when we come back.
For 75 years, Murfreesboro Medical Clinic has been a cornerstone of health and compassion in our community. From our humble beginnings to the advanced, comprehensive care we offer today, our commitment to you has never wavered. With 8 locations across Murfreesboro and Middle Tennessee and over 100 physicians, we continue to provide the highest standard of care. Then, now, and always, your health is our mission.
Turn to Turner Security.
Hey, it's Brian, and we've relied on Turner Security for systems here at WGNS and Big GTV for many years. Their advanced security solutions with real-time monitoring and automation keep us safe. Plus, their expert IT service ensures our tech runs smoothly, from networks, computers, to troubleshooting. Their team tailors solutions to our needs, and I highly recommend them for home or business solutions for you.
Turn to Turner Security.
This message brought to you by the Central Tennessee Regional Solid Waste Planning Board. Visit recyclerightTN.com for tips, ideas, and locations on where to recycle near you. That's recyclerightTN.com.
Recycle right, it's all on you. Don't be trashy, recycle classy, recycle right, Tennessee.
Go to recyclerightTN.com.
Recycle right, Tennessee.
Good Neighbor Events is brought to you by America Pest Control, Old National Bank, and the law offices of John Day.
This is a paid legal ad.
You've probably heard it a million times. If you're injured, call a lawyer. And you probably haven't because you don't know how much it will cost, how long it will take, or even if you have a case. At the law offices of John Day, we provide.
I've been helping people from Murfreesboro for over 30 years and spent a lot of time there over the years.
We love Murfreesboro. We have lots of friends down there. We've partnered with Middle Tennessee State.
And we found more and more people asking for our services. And it's
WGNS encourages you to shop local. Let's patronize those local family businesses. Some great plays to enjoy this weekend. The fantastic Mr. Fox at the Springhouse Theater in Smyrna this weekend. And here in Murfreesboro at the Center for the Arts, it's Damn Yankees. And that continues Fridays through Sundays through October the 26th. And don't miss the City Schools Foundation's pickleball tournament this weekend at the Adams Tennis Complex. And Saturday brings Harvest Days to Cannonsburg Pioneer Village. Enjoy homemade crafts, live music, and living history demonstrations. And the Murfreesboro Art League will have art on display and for sale. That's this Saturday from 10 until 4, the 49th annual Harvest Days at Cannonsburg Pioneer Village. The admission is free. And Wine Around the Square is this Saturday, 6 until 9 in the evening, all around the historic downtown square. The proceeds support the Ascension St. Thomas Rutherford Foundation's Power of Pink program. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
For 75 years, Murfreesboro Medical Clinic has been a cornerstone of health and compassion in our community. From our humble beginnings to the advanced, comprehensive care we offer today, our commitment to you has never wavered. With 8 locations across Murfreesboro and Middle Tennessee and over 100 physicians, we continue to provide the highest standard of care. Then, now, and always, your health is our mission.
I've been helping people from Murfreesboro for over 30 years and spent a lot of time there over the years.
We love Murfreesboro. We have lots of friends down there. We've partnered with Middle Tennessee State.
And we found more and more people asking for our services, and at some point it just made sense to open up an office there for the convenience of the citizens of the community and the surrounding areas.
We wanted to actually physically be present there and not just going there a lot.
Turn to Turner Security.
Hey, it's Brian, and we've relied on Turner Security for systems here at WGNS and Big GTV for many years. Their advanced security solutions with real-time monitoring and automation keep us safe. Plus, their expert IT service ensures our tech runs smoothly, from networks, computers to troubleshooting. Their team tailors solutions to our needs, and I highly recommend them for home or business solutions for you.
Turn to Turner Security.
Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
And we are back. The Roundtable on WGNS with Jason Koger, the Bionic Man. And I think we could probably go 3 hours easily, but now we only have like 10 minutes, so we need to wrap it up. I want to know, when you say in the title of your book, Handed a Greater Purpose, I really need to know more about that. So this accident was horrifying. You lost both of your hands, but you've got this determination. And of course, you've got the perspective that your family is number one. Raising your kids is number one, being a husband to Jenny. But what is the greater purpose?
So I always wanted to share my story with people to help them. And I found out there's other amputees like me. There's other people that's missing limbs, and I want to be that voice for them. I want to be that encouragement for them. I wanted my kids to see that the things that most people think is never going to happen. I was told I would never have any more kids, and I have a son now, right? I was told I would never get bionic hands because they're too expensive. And I got them. I was the first in the world with them. I came home. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to hunt. I killed a turkey 3 months after my accident with no prosthetics. I killed a deer that year. There was nothing going to stop me, man. My faith, and I knew that I had God that was going to hold me up and push me forward and open up doors, and it was my job to walk through them and figure out, like, what is my purpose? I want to know what my purpose is. And then people from around the world found out about me. I've been on CNN. I've been on Dr. Gupta. And then I got asked to do an episode on Hawaii Five-0. I did the Hookman episode, so I was a bad guy. I killed a bunch of people and they couldn't find my fingerprints. And the cool thing about that is I use that with my daughter's boyfriends now. I'm like, don't mess around.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Because they'll never find the evidence.
So I did that episode, became real good friends with RoboCop. RoboCop told me, he called me one day and he was like, dude, I've never met anybody like you, and I want to surround myself with people you surround yourself with. So he came to Owensboro, Kentucky, spent a weekend with me. I charged $10 a person to get in to meet him one time, and it was $18,000, and I gave all that money to local charities in my hometown. But I thought that moment, I was like, if I can change RoboCop's life, I can change anybody's life, right? Like, he needs me too. And anyway, I've done a movie with Matthew McConaughey. I've done an Apple commercials on Super Bowl. I've done a MetLife commercial. I've done an Advent Health commercial. Wrote my book during COVID. And I know, like, you're right. I just thought of that during that break. We could go on for multiple shows for 2 or 3 hours. And people always say, like, what is your story? My story is not what happened to me. My story is how I overcame March 1st of 2008.
That's exactly right.
That's my story.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I gravitated to you so much, because there are so many roads that you could have gone down. One of them being sort of giving up, or at least just really having a life that didn't have what your life has now. Even something as easy as driving. Like when we met a few weeks ago, we had lunch in Owensboro at a awesome barbecue place. And just seeing you pull up in your truck was like, it's possible you could have said, I'll never drive again. So there are simple things like that you could have easily just sort of given up, and you never, ever had that inside you.
There's only 3 things I can't do. I cannot cook, clean, or change dirty diapers.
How convenient.
Or if something pops up I don't want to do, I can't do it either. So.
That is
But no,
excellent.
I mean,
So tell us a little bit about that technology, though. What are your hands capable of?
So I work with this company now. It's called Oser. They're based out of Iceland and Scotland. I work with the engineers. I'm the 5th generation, first in the world 5 times. Anytime they come up with something new, I am the first. Obviously, I can open and close. I can stall fingers out. That's why it's multi-articulating, which means it has 6 motors and independently move. I have wrist rotators, so I can rotate them. They're all myoelectric, so basically my brain does tell it what to do in a sense, but literally all I'm doing is I feel like I raise a wrist and lower a wrist, which opens and closes, and then I co-contract to get it in rotate, and then I raise the wrist, lower wrist to rotate it whatever direction I want to. I've also been fitted with body powered, which has been around since the Civil War days. So if I'm working in the yard or working in the dirt or mud or water, that's what I have. I'm always going to be at the top of it, I guess, because I told everybody I wanted to be the best prosthetic user in the world when I first got hurt.
Yeah. And
I thought that's going to be pretty easy because my grandfather's not living anymore and I'm the only one like this. That was my mentality. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And I will never be the best in my mind because I feel like if you ever think that you're successful, you're the best, nobody's going to be better, somebody's going to pass you up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am considered one of the best right now from other people, but not in my mind. I am always going to work. I'm always going to figure out the next thing.
Yeah. And what is your advice when you sit down with someone who's just had an accident similar to yours, or what do you say to them?
It's funny. At times I'll meet a brand new amputee and the first thing they think is, how can I get on Hawaii Five-0? Dude, you don't need to worry about Hawaii Five-0. You got to learn how to live, And I love Matthew McConaughey saying they ask him where's he going to be in 10 years? And he makes up, where's he going to be in 10 years? And then when he gets to 10 years, he's like, what's the next 10? What's the next 10?
Mm-hmm.
And an amputee's the same way. Where am I going to be next year or in a month or in a week? It's the small steps. It's the small goals that you got to reach. And that's what I tell them is hey, I'm here for you. You ain't got to pay me a dime. If you want to talk about the mental side of it, or do you want to talk about how to use something? I have flown and paid myself to go to other people's houses to show them how to use prosthetics. I have flown kids from other places to my hometown to spend a weekend with me and show them. And I think the hardest thing is really for a new amputee is the looks that you get. And I try to tell them, I hate when people just look at me and I'm like, listen, you're different. We're all different, right? Every one of us are different. If we were all the same, it'd be a boring life. It'd be a boring world.
For sure.
And I said, take that as if they're interesting. They want to know what happened to you. And then when you have the shirt like you seen I wore, or you have the attitude that I have, you may bring something to somebody and not even know, whether it's a smile or maybe they were thinking about suicide and they look at a guy and be like, dude, I ain't got no problems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't want people thinking that I have it worse than anybody else because I don't. I've met people that lost all fours, or everybody's different. You lose a family member or you lose a house, or they're all setbacks. Right. So it doesn't matter how big it is. It's all a setback. You know what I mean? And so
I was struck by something reading Michael J. Fox's book. Of course, the Back to the Future star and star of Family Ties, and has Parkinson's disease now. And he said something that really struck me. I'm paraphrasing here, but basically he said, if God came to him today and made him a deal that he could be exactly the way he was, free from Parkinson's, but in return, he would have to be exactly the same person he was back then, he wouldn't take that deal. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. I've told people so over and over, would I go back to 2008 and my accident never happened? And I would not ever do that because I don't look in the past. I truly feel like God laid out this path for me. I feel like I have a purpose every single day when I get up. I feel like I can help so many people. I've always had a giving heart. my mom and dad raised me right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I want to encourage somebody. You can't take money with you. You know, the fame's not, I don't know. I don't worry about fame or how many people know who I am. I tell people, if I could get a movie written about me and they could take my name out of it, but it was based on my story and my faith, I'd let them have it all day long. Like, man, it's just, it's a journey I'm on with my faith.
Yeah.
That's all I say, you know?
I'm trying to think who would play you in that movie. Who would play Jason Koger in that movie?
Have to be a good-looking guy,
I mean,
right?
It's got to be somebody good-looking, right? So ultimately, this terrible accident gave you a lot.
It did. Yep.
And
it gave me.
That's a hard perspective to keep, isn't it?
Yep. And I look at my kids every day and I think, what do they see? Just like my grandfather, I never knew until I got hurt of the impact that my grandfather showed me, that he did this, he did that without an arm. So what are my kids going to be like when they get to a failure? Because we're all going to get to a failure. We all been there, right? Mm-hmm. When they get to a spot of failure, are they going to say, you know what? My dad did this. I ain't going to complain. I can get it. And I want other people I don't even know, that I walk past in a mall and them think the same thing.
Yeah.
Man, I thought this was bad, but that dude right over there has got a story, man. And I got a story too. We all have a story. Right. We all have a story.
Right. And boy, Jenny could write her own book, couldn't she?
Absolutely. You think about her real quick, is she came home she was 28 years old. She had to feed my 21-month-old. She had to feed my 3-month-old. She fed me. My food was cold. Then she fed herself. She would give a bath to a 21-month-old, give a bath to a 3-month-old, give me a bath. She went to bed and didn't worry about taking a bath. Like, you think of that. You know, it's hard.
Yeah. Wow.
But we're still together.
Yes. She didn't go. Sickness and in health, death do us part. I mean, Jenny's the hero of the story, isn't she?
Yep.
Wow.
For sure.
Jason, thank you for sharing your story, your honesty, the hope that you give everybody. It's amazing to hear how you turn something unimaginable into purpose, not just through this cutting edge technology, but through your faith and your family. And I'm just so happy to be your friend. Where can people find you?
JasonKoger.com, Koger, almost like Kroger, just leave the R out. I'm on all the social media stuff. If you reach out, I will get back with you in one way or another. That's my life. That's my purpose.
Awesome. And everybody, Handed a Greater Purpose. It's available everywhere, Amazon, wherever books are sold. Buy this book. You'll be amazed. We scratched the surface on this story. That's all we did. But I appreciate you joining us.
If they get on my website and get that book, I'll sign it and send it myself.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks for being with us on the Roundtable. Until next time, stay curious.
Subscribe to Big G TV, local content that matters to Rutherford County.